Good morning. We are going to be learning today Rambam in Hilchos Melachim, Perek Zayin Halacha Aleph. Topic is the Meshuach uMilchamot, the kohen that's anointed specifically for the sake of war. So the Rambam in Hilchos Melachim, Perek Zayin Halacha Aleph says that Echad Milchemes Mitzvah, Echad Milchemes Reshus, Memanen Koyin L'daber La'am B'Shas HaMilchama. We appoint a kohen to speak, and we do Mishicha, B'Shem HaMishcha, and that's called a Meshuach uMilchamot. Okay, now that first statement immediately causes issues, because one of the main things that is said by the Meshuach uMilchamot is who goes to war and who does not, who stays home, goes back home. And there's a litany of people who cannot go to war. However, as is known, as the Rambam himself writes later, we're going to get to that. He writes that when it comes to Milchemes Mitzvah, everyone goes. Everyone goes. Chosn, Kala, Chosn Echedrei, V'Kala Mechupasa. So what is going on here? All right. So the Rabbi immediately says, of course, he doesn't go by a Milchemes Mitzvah. He doesn't announce who shouldn't go because they're going. He talks about, there's another part that he talks about. He talks about chizuk, strengthening yourself, not to be afraid, not to worry, not to think. That's what he talks about. That's the right. And that's a general consensus, by the way, of the Rambam's Neisei Kalim, as we call them. Those who explain the Rambam. And generally, that's what you will find. That's what you will find. Okay. Now, here comes the second issue. Following this previous halacha, you would think they would say something, the difference or something. No. Halacha base. Shtei pa'omim medaber Meshuach uMilchamot. Meshuach uMilchamot speaks twice to the nation. Achaz b'sfar, one in the city by the border of the city before they leave. The Eishayetzim, when they get to go to go out, when they go out. Before they actually organize the troops and their ways, you know. And what does he say there? Those who are, in other words, the list of people who are supposed to return because of various reasons. We'll talk about that later. Now, here he adds a line which indicates something. When they will hear the word. So the general understanding is when they will hear me talk about it in the second time, they should go back. And once, when they're already in the war, right, preparing for the war, there he says, Al tiru val tachtu. Don't be afraid. So we're going to talk about this Rambam, but I want to just point out that he talks twice, which needs explanation. Why does he need both? And that's something that people struggle with. Second, he seems to be saying different things in each place, which is a problem. Is he saying the whole thing? And why does he say it the way he does? He presents it as different things. But he clearly says, I'm going to speak about it later. So when he says in the Milchama, the Milchama, when the war is set up, when the army is set up, he says, Al Tir Val Tachmas, he also means whoever shouldn't go, as we'll see in the next halacha. Halacha Gimel, he finally brings it all together. Not about what he says in the Sfar, but what he says at the Urch Halacha. And that is he scribes, he gets up, and there's a whole system. He says, and there's repetition, who repeats, goes through everything that's said, and it seems that in the Sfar, he says that, in the Urch Halacha, he says everything. And he finishes, he gets everything, who should go home, who should not. Now, when he talks about that after all the people are supposed to go home, now you're in the army. You're here, you're in the army. You're not your own boss anymore. You're in the army, you can't run back, you can't run, you gotta fight the war to the teeth. And fight till the end. And he says how they protect that, and they don't allow people to what we call chicken out. And then he said, and after he says that, he says, "Hey, that I told you in the last halacha that there are people who go back. That's uMilchamot Reshus, uMilchamot Mitzvah, not everybody goes." Why does he say it here? He should have said it in the last halacha. Here, after in the war already, he suddenly comes back. Oh, wait. I don't remember. Now, there's a lot of discussion about. So let's start off with a lot of discussion about the uMilchamot Mitzvah, uMilchamot Reshus aspect. And the general assumption is that the Ravid is correct. The Arsameach brings a mucker to the Rambam. He brings a brisa in Soita that says that you made a Mashiach Muhammad where by uMilchamot Midyan, that was a uMilchamot Mitzvah. Now you see, there is a Mashiach Muhammad. Yeah, they're Makairas, you go back and forth, and bottom line, the Gemara says, Ton Rabbono, and Daf Membeis and say Hamayim Medaber Imam Achaz Misvar. So Rashi says when they leave the land, Achaz Muhammad. What does he say? So now Misvar, he says Shimu Archei Muhammad, Chizru Muhammad, maybe Chizru Muhammad. Exactly the way the Rambam presents. There's a lot of confusion. I don't want to say confusion. It's hard to understand what is the Rambam really mean. Then there's the big question that the Mishnah asks, the Perlstein asks. Mishnah, I'm sorry. Why do we repeat? Why can't you just say it all once? What's the repetition? I'm going to tell you something. Listen to me now. And there's an answer, it's a Sifri. Yelech Yashav Beisa, Yelech Yishma Divrei Kaim Ma'archem Chama V'Yahweh. That's you're going to hear me speak about it there. There's a cost. Okay, it is. All right. And why shouldn't they go back home now, right away? Maybe they Salvechik says maybe they can break through Kiddush. He says that even uMilchamot Mitzvah, there's two aspects of war. There is a war, there is a communal war, a national war, and there's a personal war. He says the national war means you're part of the nation warring. To that, even uMilchamot Mitzvah, all these people who don't go to uMilchamot Reshus are also part of it. The reason they don't go home is because they have a personal responsibility. They have their own responsibility. And he builds on this a very, very nice approach. It's a big chiddush. And but it needs and he brings proofs which are I wouldn't say they're not proofs that indicates such a big chiddush to the point that he brings them, but it's a massive breakthrough. Shulchan goes with a very balbatish, simple logic. So like this. The reason we do it in the Svar is because the reason we do it at the war itself is because the guys who are not going to war, all those people are not going home. They're going to be the suppliers of ammo and everything else you need. So that's why we don't announce it. That's why we announce it there. Now, why do we announce it? But right away before they leave, so they shouldn't take their guns with them. There were no gun laws then. Don't take your guns with you. Just take your shovels and your other things that you need. What you need they take your wagons to be able to bring food. Interesting approach. Again, it's still a big chiddush. That's why you need twice. Okay, so let's just summarize the problems. What's the purpose of reading twice? Of saying it in the Svar when they're not staying, then they're going back. Why do it twice? And those who say that you told them I'm going to go back later, that's the point. Say don't tell them that. Just tell them later. Okay, you have the Svar. Then I want to emphasize some of the words he says. He talks to them twice, once Bisvar, and he stresses of course, they're in the side, and they don't organize Melachim until later. And then in the beginning he says in Svar, he says, Mia ish v'geimer. It doesn't say anything about Aliyah Chavavch. Halacha Gimel, right? It's mashmatak. He doesn't say anything about it in this Svar. But the sources say clearly, the Sifri in Pasha Shaftim says that no, you tell them everything in both places. In the Svar, you also told them everything. Okay. We mentioned the point that the Rambam leaves the halacha of going back and not going back from Melachim's mitzvah at the end of the discussion of what happens when you're in the war. I want to suggest something. The difference between Melachim's mitzvah and Melachim's reshus is when the war starts. In Melachim's reshus, the war starts when you're at war, because there is no compulsory or reason that you have to go to war. So when you're at war, you're at war. For that, you're preparing for war. They're called the drums of war. Melachim's mitzvah, as soon as the mitzvah comes, you're at war. You're in the war process. Perhaps that's the reason that everybody has to go, because there is no, you're already at war. You can't leave. You leave now, you're hurting the war effort. Yeah. But you still need to understand the purpose of saying twice. And maybe why do we repeat it again? Oh, one second. So I want to suggest something interesting. That in Melachim's reshus, in other words, the rule is once you're at war, you can't leave. When you're organizing the war already, you can't leave. How come we let people leave at that point? Well, that's why we announce it in the Svar. To already prepare the leaving, even a Melachim's mitzvah. You wouldn't be able to leave from the Erech. Once you're in the organizational stage of the Melachim, you're at war. So therefore, you have to announce it first to make them potter, because that's what it does, and therefore they can leave. But at a Melachim's mitzvah, as we said, you can't do that. Oh, so why do we do it twice? Why do we do it a second time by the war altogether? Just tell them you're going to leave then. Because that's the main point, as we see in the parsha, all the people, who's supposed to say what, who's supposed to do what. It's all about that time. Okay. Just to note, in Sefer HaMitzvahs, the Rambam writes about the mitzvah of Shiur Milchama, and he says this whole idea of Teichachas, Shiur Milchama, and the calling out is only required in Melachimos Reshus. But in Melachimos Mitzvah, there's nothing of that. No Teichacha, no Achraza, because it's not relevant. Very different than what he says here, but that's the Rambam's prerogative to say different things. Sefer HaMitzvahs than what he says in the Rambam. Okay. So I want to suggest, based on a very big chiddush that I saw, but it's so beautiful, in their Rishonim, and Ragachover says, there's a Miri Satan, that the word bisfar is not sfar, it's sefer. And he says, in this, V'shema yekayru lem kol ha-parsha, and you have to read the whole parsha. And maybe he doesn't hold that. He doesn't do that. However, the Ragachover and Hilchos Yisei Torah, he goes with this approach, and he stresses his b'sefer. The first time he says he reads it, Lashon HaKodesh and the Sefer Torah, and that's what it means b'sefer. And then the Melchama, it's a whole speech with people saying and repeating. Okay, so I want to just, what comes out of here? There's two dinim. One is a din of Kriya Satira, Melachim HaKodesh, and Teichas Sefer with the Sefer. And then there is a tzivui, where the Kaim Shulchan commands. And that's the second time. These are the two dinim of Kriyas, of what goes on here. There's a Kriya of Torah, and there's why. And that, we know from, we spoke about it by Kriyas Rashi Zohar, that Kriya in the Torah is empowering. So I want, and maybe that'll answer all the questions. And nothing to do, even Melachimos Mitzvah, and that's a Kriya, similar to what Rav Soloveitchik said. However, not with his point that you're bad some part. No, it's a din Kriya. But we could go a step further. I want to go a step further and explain perhaps a logic to it. The Rambam's view of Jewish war is very different. It's not only Rambam, we'll see. The Rambam says, when you go to war, you can't be afraid. You got to fight for God. You're going al yichud Hashem, and you're fighting for Him, and therefore there's no fear. Don't think about your wife, kids. Forget it. Erase them from your mind. Your focus is do what God wants. War is the ultimate connection to God. And whoever does that, you're guaranteed coming back. Nothing's going to happen to you. No injuries, nothing. And you will have maybe like a successful life. This world and the world to come. This is the Rambam's description. Now, the Rambam, a very interesting Rambam, and I think it's saying something. The Rambam in Parashat Shoftim says, the reason Ki Hashem Elokeichem, the Eibishter goes with you, and therefore don't be afraid. Don't put faith in your rockets and your you need them, but don't put faith in them. Faith has to be in the Eibishter. And Yiftachu B'Yishasa, the Eibishter wants your Yireh. Yireitz Hashem is Yireya, Samyach and Chazde. What do you say every day in davening, in the Halalukas? And he says you're going to win. And nobody is going to be lost. Because you could win with losses. No loss. Now listen to this. This is the key. And therefore, he says, Yeshua, who lost 36 people in the war of Ai, was screaming to the Eibishter, I'm not going to war anymore. 36 people. we would love a war where we only lose 36 people. And he says, because Melchem's mitzvah nobody should have lost. It's not even a hair should be lost. So my question is very simple. Why is he stressing Melchem's mitzvah? Melchama. So I want to explain very simple. What's it fighting? How do you know that they had the right kavanah? How do you know that they were fighting with the Amunah and Betachon that you're supposed to have? So I want to suggest that when it comes to Melchem's mitzvah, it doesn't matter what you're thinking. The mitzvah guides you. You're doing when you're going to war because the Eibishter wants you to go to war. It doesn't matter anymore what you're personally thinking about. When you're going to war because of Melchem's Rishus, then you need to have the right Amun and Betachon, as the Rambam described. When you go to war Melchem's mitzvah, the Ramban adds, you should be believed. You're safe. You're a safe person. Oh. So, therefore, it will make a lot of sense. Why in Melchem's Rishus people go back? Because the explanation that's given, they go back because these people can't focus. That's what the Perlstein say. Rashi says, Davar Shalag Mas Nefesh. The Maral explained because a person is weak, his lack of strength of mind and frame of mind could hurt him in the war. Also, I don't care what your frame of mind is. You're all going to be okay. Right? Because Hashem HaMuchamot. Oh, so now listen close. Perhaps the reading of the parsha and the saying about who shouldn't go to war is there to stress that's the parsha of the Torah. Don't go to war. Why? Because we're afraid you should go to war. You're going to get hurt. Now we're telling you even those people are going to war. Why? Because it's not your war. It's Hashem HaMuchamot. And we don't care what you're thinking. And maybe that itself will calm the person, knowing you're okay. So it could be not because you're potter, but to show you that you who would be potter are now kind. And therefore, that's sort of a drush part, but I think it could make sense, and we'll leave it at that. Seid gesund und stark.